Good morning. Today we're going to talk about Evelyn Boswell for a few minutes. In 2019, Evelyn Boswell was a bright, growing little girl, full of life, healthy, learning to walk, learning to talk, doing all the things that a 12-month-old child would do. Which means today, 5 years later, Evelyn Boswell would be 6 years old. She would be possibly in kindergarten, learning to read, maybe taking her first ballet class or her first soccer game, learning to tie her shoes, all of the things that we think of that are firsts for 6-year-old children. But based upon the last 2 days of our jury selection, we all know that Evelyn Boswell is not going to do any of those things. We all know that all of that was taken away from her in December of 2019 by the defendant, Megan Boswell. And her life wasn't just cut short. It's not just a tragedy. Her life was violently ripped away from her. And we can all agree that it's a shock, it's a tragedy when a child dies. It's upsetting. It upsets all of us. You'll hear phrases like "gone too soon," "what a tragedy." A child has such a life ahead of them. And a lot of times it is a tragedy. And in this case, it's a tragedy too. But in this case, it was a preventable tragedy. There's so much more to this story that you are going to hear. Because Evelyn did not have to die. Evelyn could be here today. And so today, 5 years later, we are asking you to give justice to Evelyn Boswell. During this trial, you will learn that the one person, Evelyn's mother, Megan Boswell, who was entrusted more than anyone else to take care of her, to keep her safe, to protect her, that she failed her in the worst possible way. You will hear proof that the last time Evelyn Boswell was seen alive was December 6th, 2019. You're going to hear that date a few times during this trial. That is the last time that Evelyn Boswell was seen alive. And that was just a few weeks after her first birthday. And you're going to hear from many witnesses who saw Evelyn frequently, saw her all the time, family members, Megan Boswell's friends, that all of a sudden are like, where's Evelyn? Where's Evelyn? We're not seeing. They're concerned. And they would ask Megan Boswell about it, and every time Megan had an answer. Megan concocted a story. And I'm not going to tell you now what she said. You're going to hear that in the proof. But she told all kinds of different stories, depending on the person that she was talking to. And you will hear from those witnesses today. But you will hear, or this week, but you will hear there was concern. But they knew Megan. They thought they knew Megan, I should say. And so they wanted to trust that what she was telling them was the truth. But it wasn't. It was not the truth. So after December, what happens next? We have Christmas, New Year's. Where's Evelyn? There is no Evelyn. You will not see any proof that Evelyn was seen at Christmas, New Year's. Then we jump to January. The entire month of January 2020, 31 days. Where's Evelyn? There's no Evelyn. People are really starting to get concerned, and Megan Boswell continues to concoct stories of where Evelyn is to try to help people make sense so she can keep this going. The entire month of February 2020. Where's Evelyn? Again, at this point, family is really starting to get concerned that they have not seen Evelyn. And they're asking questions. Months pass. We're not talking about weeks. We are talking about over 2.5 months that Evelyn Boswell is missing. The defendant is not even just canceling her well visits. She's no-showing. She's just not showing up because she knows where Evelyn is. But again, even to the pediatrician's office, she has to concoct a story about forgetting the appointment maybe, or I got my days mixed up. Always a story. Always a story. So we know now, we did not know then, but we know now that from early December, Evelyn Boswell, even though it had not been reported by Megan Boswell, Evelyn Boswell was a missing child from early December until almost the end of February. She was a missing child. And the only person who knew that, the person who was entrusted to take care of her the most, is the only person who knew that Evelyn was actually missing. And she just left it unreported. Over 2 months later, finally, Megan Boswell's dad, Tommy Boswell, finally essentially puts an ultimatum down on his daughter and says, I'm tired of the stories. If you don't show me my grandchild by the next day, I'm essentially calling the police. Well, Megan knew she could not do that, and she did not do that. And Tommy Boswell finally was the one to report Evelyn missing on February 18th of 2020. Finally, law enforcement gets involved, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation gets involved, the FBI gets involved, all hands on deck to find this missing child. She's finally reported missing. But it's important to note that it was not Megan Boswell that reported her child missing. Megan Boswell never reported her child missing. So you're going to hear from December of 2019 until February of 2020, when it's finally reported, that the defendant's biggest believable story, that really is probably what kept the family from reporting earlier, is she was saying that Evelyn was with her father, Ethan Perry. And you'll hear a lot about Ethan Perry, and you'll get to hear from Ethan Perry yourselves. Ethan Perry is actually not Evelyn's father, but Megan led him to believe that he was the father. And everyone, for all purposes, also believed Ethan Perry was the father. So to the family, they're like, well, that's good. He's stepping up. The father's stepping up. That's good. We're proud of him. And that is the story that Megan Boswell told mostly to her family, to her friends. You were going to hear a lot of testimony about her just telling everyone that Ethan Perry has gotten Evelyn. First, you'll hear that they're trading weeks, but doesn't make sense because people are still not seeing Evelyn. So then Megan took it one step further, where he took her to court and got emergency custody, blaming her for something. And again, not true. There was never court. There were no documents. Juvenile court was never involved. It was just another story that Megan Boswell was telling because she knew where Evelyn was, and she had to keep perpetuating this lie. Interestingly enough, she didn't think it through completely because Ethan Perry at the time was in the Army in Louisiana. He lived in barracks, and I think we all understand and know that in the barracks there's not going to be a toddler running around. But Megan Boswell, in perpetuating that story, she didn't care. She got the entire Army involved in this to go investigate this poor guy who was trying to serve our country in Louisiana. Pulling him out of his duty, I can't imagine the chaos that caused, all because Megan Boswell wanted to perpetuate this lie. And Ethan Perry didn't even see Evelyn in December. You will hear that he came in to visit his grandparents on leave. He never saw Evelyn Boswell over Christmas or over December. And we all know why now. But at the time, Megan again tells the story. Evelyn has the flu. She can't come. And you will hear the testimony that no one saw, no one, not Ethan Perry or anyone else saw Evelyn Boswell in December. The hard part. From early December of 2019 until later when her body was found, Evelyn was always in the same place. And Megan Boswell knew that. Megan Boswell knew that because she is the one that put Evelyn there. She placed Evelyn's body in a kitchen trash can. Her own trash can from her home, from the trailer that she shared with Evelyn. And she hid that trash can in her own childhood playhouse on her father's property, a playhouse that you will see no one has been in for a very long time, and that it was Megan's. It was personal to Megan, not to anyone else. And you're going to hear that Evelyn was put into the trash can upside down is the best way to describe it, head down, in a bag of trash filled with food debris, broken eggs, her body just placed in there by the defendant. You will see that there was a blanket tightly wrapped around Evelyn's body, pulled up over her face, and quite a bit of aluminum foil then wrapped around her head. The blanket completely covering her face, the foil completely covering her head. Upside down in a trash can, still in her purple fleece onesie and diaper. And as terrible as it is to say, you are going to hear that she just wasn't placed in the trash can, but then another trash bag was placed on top of her. And that trash bag was shoved down into the trash can, compressing Evelyn into the trash can. That's what we're dealing with today. And you're going to hear proof that directly links only one person to this crime, this horrendous crime. You are going to hear that the only person linked to this crime is sitting at this table right here. You are going to hear it from many witnesses. You're going to hear all of the stories that she concocted, the lies that she told, and you're going to hear forensic evidence that links the defendant, Megan Boswell, and only the defendant, Megan Boswell, to this crime. One step further. This entire time, Evelyn is decaying, decomposing in this trash can, again, upside down and compressed. What is Megan Boswell doing? Is she mourning her child? Is she worried? Is she scared? What is she doing? What would a mother be doing? Well, it's not what Megan Boswell was doing. And you're going to hear that because Megan Boswell got a new boyfriend, and it conveniently happened at pretty much exactly the same time that Evelyn disappears. When no one sees Evelyn again, Megan Boswell has decided she's just going to, Evelyn just out of the head, and she's moving on with her life. And she is living her best life, and you will hear that. She has this new boyfriend who has money, or at least she thinks he has money, and she's going to have a better life for herself. Not her child, but for herself. You will hear that she takes trips. She's clearly falling in love. She moves out of the trailer that she was living in with her child and moves in with this guy within weeks into his home in a very nice neighborhood in Blunteville, Tennessee. You are going to hear testimony that Megan Boswell is taking trips to Gatlinburg, to Pigeon Forge, staying at Margaritaville Hotel, all while her child is upside down decomposing in a trash can. You will never hear that Megan Boswell was upset, mourning her child, crying. All she does is continue to concoct lies to cover up what she did. Is that what a mother does? So you will hear that when Tommy Boswell reports, it's essentially all hands on deck with law enforcement. Immediately, law enforcement goes into action, and you are going to hear so much proof about how much effort went into finding this baby, how much time and hours worked by every law enforcement agency in North Carolina, East Tennessee, Middle Tennessee. Everyone putting their efforts into trying to find this little girl and hoping, just hoping, to find her alive. So then Megan Boswell then, of course, comes clean, right? Once law enforcement's involved, because Megan knows where Evelyn is, so she's gonna tell law enforcement, right? The answer is no, and you probably can gather that by General Harper reading the indictment for about 40 minutes this morning. Megan Boswell continues to perpetuate her stories, concocting anything, blaming anyone else. Ethan Perry, for a day, 2 days, she continues that story of Ethan Perry. Then you'll hear she admits that's not true. So then she tries to blame her mom, her own mom. She decides to try to blame to try to get out of this because she knows this snowball is rolling down this hill and she's trying to stop it the best she can. Why is she doing that? It's because she knows that she brutally murdered her child and she's trying to cover it up. And maybe she had that hope that Evelyn would never be found. And even to this day, 5 years later, Evelyn would still be a missing child. The defense said something really interesting in jury selection yesterday afternoon that I want to touch on. He said to you, you only have one chance to get this right. Do you remember that? Then he said, Megan only has one chance to get this right. Do you remember that? I submit to you, Megan Boswell has already had her chance. She was gifted with a beautiful child, a healthy, vibrant little girl. Evelyn was perfect. Megan Boswell already had her chance. So today is Evelyn's chance. Today is our chance to get it right, not Megan's. Today's our chance to get it right for Evelyn. I know this is not easy for any of you. Thank you for serving. I promise you that this is not easy for any of us. It is not easy for any of us. But it's so important for us to be here today. You know you're going to see pictures that you don't want to see. You know you're going to hear things that you don't want to hear. But that's how we tell Evelyn's story. What she endured before her death, during her death, and even after her death. and where she had to sit for months while her mother continued to live her life as if Evelyn didn't exist. Ladies and gentlemen, at the close of this proof, we believe you will be left with no doubt at all that the defendant, Megan Boswell, is guilty as charged